All right, ladies and gents, welcome to an outsider guide, or at least an early one, as you know, obviously we're still pretty early into the game cycle. And this is one of the more special characters in the sense that he relies more so on weapon damage than he does on skill damage, like pretty much every other character in the game. I've played around with him a tiny bit, and I actually think he's a really interesting character. It seems pretty fun to play as well, because you're more active rather than play Rebecca, press E, and stand still. But I don't think he's currently that good just yet. But yeah, well, there's obviously ways to make him better, and I think for most of the content in the game, he's going to do an okay job. So yeah, let's jump straight into it. Now, for his skills, we're gonna basically do this in a different order because this entire kit kind of revolves around gaining stacks of Fang Spike. Right, you can have 10 Fang Spikes going, and you can generate these Fang Spikes by either taking damage. So when taking damage, Outsider generates 1 Fang Spike to attack the damage dealer, or by pressing your skill, which generates 2. And we are currently able to get 10. There might be an intron that ups that number, but for now it's 10. Actually, I don't imagine it's going to be higher than 10 anyway. But yeah, 10 stacks. And the way it works is these fangs, they will attack the enemy, and then they will kind of just be around on the battlefield. And when you then press your ultimate, you absorb all these fangs, you do a bunch of damage to yourself, but you get a couple of buffs. You get a resolve boost at 14%. You get an attack speed boost. And then obviously the lower on health, like it's also going to make you low on health, which will then buff you further because of the resolve stat that you're building towards. So passive means take damage, do damage with skill, gain Fang. Fangs are on field. Press ultimate to get all of the Fangs to hit you and to give you an attack speed and a resolve boost going. Now, every Fang does 10% max HP, so that's why it really wouldn't make sense to have more than 10 Fangs, because that is 100% HP. So if you have all 10 Fangs out and you press your ultimate, you are going to go down to 1 HP. But luckily for you, you'll actually just get Ultra Shields instead of fully taking that damage and just dying because you're low on health. So I'm going to show you what this looks like in a practice setting real quick. Let's spawn in. It doesn't really matter what enemy we spawn in, but maybe this one's a bit too squishy. So we're going to basically use our E. We're gonna do damage, get a couple of fangs going, so that should be 4, 8, and then 10. Oops, 10. And he died. That's not good. Let me just put another one down that's way higher level. And I'm actually gonna get some more fangs going. I'm just gonna use it a couple times because I didn't really count all too well. And if I press my ultimate now, boom, I go down to 1 HP. But I get all of the health lost as overshields. And now during this duration, I have the extra resolve and the extra attack speed going. So your entire kit revolves around having this up as often as you possibly can. Now, one important thing to note is that you are getting resolve, and you're also low on HP, which means that you benefit from resolve. Resolve is a stat that is just going to simply increase the damage that you do when you have resolve going. That's the whole point of it. Now, you can also not be healed when you're in your ultimate form. So this is kind of a good thing, because if you're 1 HP, your resolve is going to do as much as it possibly can because of how low you are. And then it wouldn't be all too logical for you to gain healing during that time. Very quickly, the ultimate itself only lasts 5 seconds, but for every Fang Spike, it extends it by 2 seconds. So it should be 25 seconds in total. As it stands right now. Obviously, if you build skill duration, both of these statistics are gonna, or both of these stats are going to go up. Why am I saying statistics? What the hell? Both of these stats are gonna go up, and there's a max of 50 seconds duration. So I'm not entirely sure. Let me actually, not entirely sure if this, if this number also goes up from upgrading. I don't really remember. But make sure that if you're stacking skill duration, because you want to make this last as long as possible, that you're not going over 50 seconds. Yeah, that's basically it for this, or for that part of the kit. You can get some extra attack, some extra skill duration here. And you also have this passive, which I have not upgraded yet. Basically, whenever you attack an enemy normally, so this is when you're not in your ultimate, or when you don't come out of your skill, but you're just attacking an enemy normally, you can also generate a Fang Spike. Let me actually just grab this real quick. I don't think I had the money for it earlier. And then your final one is an animal attack boost to animal users when you are the off-field character. Okay, so Outsider is a character that will rely on weapon damage, and it doesn't really seem like there is a melee weapon that is super good on him. There are some good ones, like for example the Exiled Fangs, because that is his weapon type, which should increase your damage, but I don't really know if it does. But the most important thing here is that it attacks pretty quickly, and it has some decent AoE. It gives you some attack speed, and when dealing damage with the weapon, it triggers the bonus effect that if you are low on HP, there's a chance to heal a tiny bit of your HP up. This is obviously, again, not going to work in your ultimate, but when your ultimate runs out, there's a way to just sustain some of the health back up to get to that point. For ranged weapon, I just put something on. I don't immediately see something that is really good. You could run something with trigger probability, but I'm not entirely sure if that trigger probability is going to be all too valuable if you're not using the weapon all too much. So honestly, just run whatever. You're mainly going to be doing melee damage. For the Genie mod, I don't have the animal on-field one, but that is really good because it gives you resolve, so if you have it, use it. I don't, so that's why I am not using it.
Shall we do it together?
I'm actually going to go in a different order. I'm going to go into Demon Wedges in just a second, but I want to talk about supports first. So when it comes to Outsider, there is basically two supports that are pretty good. There is Main Character, who gives you a weapon damage buff to, obviously the allies. So if you're using them off-field, that's an 8% weapon damage buff. And then Truffle specifically gives you a resolve damage boost, which is also really nice to have. You could also mess around and use, for example, a Daphne. She's a lower level. Daphne because she gives you crit chance. Or if you really want to chase as much attack, you could be using Margie as well as your off-field to get a bunch of attack going. But yeah, there's basically options. I do think the only necessary one that you should have is Truffle for the extra resolve, because that's just a very valuable stat to have. All right, back to Outsider. Let's look at Demon Wedges. So as far as I can tell, the main thing that you want to chase down is just Animo attack. Skill damage, I have it pretty high here because I'm running the X-Crest Duo pistol and I'm also running this, but it's not something that you really need to be getting. Skill damage is going to influence your the damage on your fangs. So this right here is going to be influenced by skill damage, which is nice. Obviously you want to have that, but it's not going to be as valuable just getting attack, because attack will also help you do weapon damage and just like regular normal attack damage. Okay, let's go back to Demon Wedges. Basically, you want to be running as much resolve as possible. Now, I don't have my my build fully going yet, so I can't tell you what I think the best setup would be. All I can say is try to chase some Animo attack and try to chase some resolve. For Animo, luckily, you've got Blaze Resolve, which is amazing. If I had more copies of this, I would just slap them on because it gives you attack percent and resolve, which is basically two stats that you really, really need to get. I'm also running Prime Resolve, gives me 6%, and then the Wildfire Griffin, because the Animo attack percent here is actually way more valuable than just regular attack percent would be. Like if I do this, I gain a tiny bit of attack, even though it's 75%. But if I put this back on, it goes down a bit, but I'm also getting other stats that are really nice. I'm assuming this is because Animo attack calculates differently than just regular attack, and it counts towards more damage. If you are running against a boss specifically, you could also run Duel, which I think is a pretty good one to run against bosses because you're just going to do more damage. But for now, honestly, I would just have as many Blaze resolves as possible. And if it weren't for track shift modules, I would be farming these and putting them on, but I don't want to fully invest into this character just yet. Then for your ranged weapon, it doesn't matter all too much what you use, but for your melee weapon, you basically want to get your crit chance as high as possible. Did I not have enough gold? Boom. You want to get your crit chance as high as possible. So I'm currently at 32. and then get some crit damage and then some attack going. If you have something that gives you slash attack, you could also run that. Now, I don't immediately see something that is related to slash just yet. Maybe I am stupid, I might be. But obviously having extra slash attack is going to increase this number by as much as possible. You could run some attack speed and trigger probability, but I don't think you really need to all too much. Very quickly, by the way, trigger probability, if you don't know, when you hit an enemy with a weapon, there's a chance to apply the Animo effect if you're using the Animo character. And trigger probability is nice to have because of... Actually, no, you don't even need to. You don't even need to have it here. Never mind. Trigger probability isn't a necessary stat to be going for. Whoops. Anyway, that's basically it. I'm gonna take you into a combat scenario in just a second and show you how I would go about this. Let's just do... I'm not gonna run endgame content because I haven't built the character well enough for him to be good for endgame content. I'm just gonna put that out as a disclaimer. So that's why we are not doing that. So I'm just gonna jump into a hedge real quick and yeah. Let's see about how we would run this. All right, the little puzzle. Yeah, basically we're gonna try to get 10 fangs going. We're gonna take some damage, we're gonna drop our skill, and then wait for enemies to be a bit closer to each other and hope that Psyche doesn't just kill everything. But maybe I didn't think about this all too much. Alright, anyway, use our skill, get some fangs. You'll see these fangs around the map, like for example there and there. Use it a couple more times. Whoops, I need to be hitting the enemies, obviously. Use it a couple more times. I'm actually going to go into something a bit more difficult in just a second. And then have as many fangs out, and then we press our ult. And then we're going to have an attack speed boost and a resolve boost. And we're just going to be doing a bunch more damage. And we'll even have the truffle attack boost going here because... sorry, the truffle resolve boost going. Because she's on the team. Alright. So we still have 6 seconds of our ultimate, but I'm actually not doing all too much damage here. Obviously, it kind of makes sense. I'm only level 50. I'm not really fully built. But you kind of get the hang of the character. You're more so focusing on actually actively hitting enemies than you are just pressing your skill button once and everything dying. I'm not entirely sure how many fang stacks we've got going, but let's just pop our ult again. We seem to have 10 going, so you can stack them pretty quickly. And then gonna just hit these enemies again. Okay. Use our skill a couple of times, press our ult again. Yeah, okay, well, and it's gone. I'm also going to show you a little example on a boss fight. Show you how that would go over there. Now, I actually don't think I have enough Demon Wedge tolerance. No, I don't have enough to put dual on, but we'll just do it like this. So let's quickly go to this, go to Nocturnal, and I'm going to take Crystallophile because I feel like it's just one of the easier bosses to wail on. Alright, so again, our game plan is just to try to get... We'll do level 50 because I am currently level 50 as well. Our game plan is get our stacks going, press our ult, and then do as much damage as we possibly can. Now, there's one inherent issue with this, with clearing solo content like this, and I'm going to show you in just a second what that would come down to. So, do this, and at this point we should be at 10 stacks, press our ult, we were at 10 stacks. And now we will be doing a bunch more damage, and we can start focusing on breaking his limbs. And then doing some damage to him. Obviously, like, I'm not doing an insane amount of damage, and there's 2 reasons for that. Reason 1 is that I don't have a buffer, and reason 2 is because I don't have my character built all too well. I guess reason 3 is that he's just not as good as, for example, a Psyche would be. But I'm gonna assume that for later game content, and when there's maybe like more buffers specifically towards weapon damage, he might be a bit better. But yeah, this is basically your game plan. You see now that, I guess I kind of lied about this, or I guess I didn't really understand this correctly, but I am actually also getting healed from my weapon. which means that it does heal me despite being in my ult. So it's only other characters that cannot heal me. Well, good thing that we're finding that out now. Again, we're going to use our ultimates. Puts us down to 1 HP again. And we're not going to do the entire boss fight, but we'll just break one more limb and then get out. Oh, that attack is a bit longer than I thought it was going to be. I'm also, I don't feel like I have enough crit going yet to make this really as reliable as I possibly can. Yeah, and that is basically that. Let's just quit out of this real quick. Let's exit. So yeah, that's basically Outsider and what his kit does. Again, he doesn't seem that strong just yet, but for just clearing content, if you actually build them and you get them to a specific point, you are going to be doing pretty well. And worst case scenario, let's say that you build them and you don't feel like you want to be using them all too much anymore, you can just upgrade this and slap him onto an Animo team because he's going to give you some extra attack going. So yeah, that's basically it. I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions or anything you would like to let me know, make sure to do so in the comments below. And thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Goodbye.